Before I start the video, I want to say that a lot of people watch my videos without a subscription. If my content resonates with you, you could subscribe to the channel. Thus YouTube would promote it more, which in turn would motivate me to release and improve content more often. Thank you. As a single girl, I had always been eager to explore new places and gain new experiences. So, when I stumbled upon super cheap tickets to Aruba, I knew I had to jump on the opportunity. I had never been diving before, but I had always been fascinated by the underwater world, so I decided to use a trip to get a diving certificate. On the first day of my trip, I booked an equestrian tour to explore the island. Our group rode in a minibus, and the tour guide was friendly and knowledgeable about the island's history and culture. We visited various tourist spots, and I took in the stunning views of the beaches and the crystal clear waters. On the way back, the driver passed my stop, and I started to feel uneasy. I didn't know the way well, but something about the situation felt off. I asked the driver why he didn't stop at my hotel, and he replied that he had decided to take another road. I knew something was wrong, but I didn't want to overreact, so I tried to stay calm. As the driver dropped off the last tourists at their hotel, my heart started to race. I asked him to go back to my hotel, but he didn't respond. He simply told me that there was a nice beach nearby, not too crowded. I knew I had to be careful, and my mind raced with different scenarios of what could happen next. We were just passing the mall parking lot, and I was already thinking about jumping out of the car. But I knew it could be risky, as the driver could easily grab me and push me back into the car. Instead, I tried to think on my feet and came up with a plan. I can't go to the beach, I told him. They're waiting for me. I just texted my friends that I'm on my way back and I'll be there in a few minutes. If we don't go to my hotel now, I'll be late. To my surprise, the plan worked. The driver turned the van around and started telling me about his wife and kids. I was scared out of my wits, but I tried to keep the conversation going, hoping that he would drop me off at my hotel soon. Of course, the story about waiting for me was a complete lie. I didn't even have a signal on my phone, so if he had figured me out, I wouldn't have been able to call for help. As we drove back to my hotel, I kept my eyes on the road, hoping that I would make it back safely. When we finally arrived at my hotel, I let out a sigh of relief. I quickly got out of the car and thanked the driver for the ride, pretending like everything was normal. But as soon as I got inside my hotel room, I locked the door and called the local police. The police took my statement and promised to investigate the incident. They advised me to be careful and not to travel alone, especially in unfamiliar places. The incident left me shaken, but I was grateful to be safe. The rest of my trip went smoothly, and I successfully obtained my diving certificate. But the incident stayed with me, and it reminded me of the importance of being vigilant and aware of my surroundings. It also made me appreciate the kindness of strangers, like the tourists who offered me a ride back to my hotel the next day while they saw me walking alone on the street. As I returned home, I promised myself to always be cautious and to never take my safety for granted. The incident had taught me a valuable lesson. I was grateful to have come out of it unharmed. My opinion on the story. I can understand the gravity of the situation the protagonist faced and how it could happen to anyone. The story emphasizes the importance of being vigilant, even when traveling to familiar places, and highlights the dangers of traveling alone. The protagonist's quick thinking and ability to remain calm under pressure are admirable, and it's a reminder that we should always be prepared to handle unexpected situations. Overall, the story serves as a cautionary tale and an inspiration to always prioritize personal safety when exploring new places. I had always been fascinated by the intricate beauty of Peru. Its history, culture, and people were all so unique and captivating. When I found super cheap tickets to Lima, I couldn't resist. I wanted to experience everything the country had to offer, from the bustling streets of the cities to the tranquil mountains of the Andes. One day, while exploring the streets of Lima, I stumbled upon a small jewelry store. It was a quaint little shop with a sign that read Hechizo, which I learned later meant spell in Spanish. The store was filled with beautiful jewelry, all handcrafted and unique. I was immediately drawn to a necklace that caught my eye. It was an intricate piece made with a combination of gold and silver, and adorned with intricate patterns and precious stones. As I was admiring the necklace, the store owner approached me. His name was Miguel, and he was a friendly and jovial man. We struck up a conversation about the necklace, and he told me that it was made by a close friend of his who was an artist. He went on to explain that his friend was part of a local cooperative of artists who made unique pieces of jewelry and other crafts. I was intrigued and decided to purchase the necklace. Miguel was happy to make the sale and even offered to wrap it for me in a beautiful gift box. As I was leaving the store, I noticed two men standing outside watching me. They looked like they were in their late 20s and were dressed in casual clothes. They didn't seem to be paying any attention to me, so I thought nothing of it and continued on my way. The following day, I decided to explore some of the nearby neighborhoods. As I was walking, I noticed one of the men from the previous day was following me. I quickened my pace, but he kept up. My heart began to race as I realized that I was being followed by a stranger. Suddenly, the man approached me and pulled out a small bag of white powder. He held it up to my face and said in Spanish, "You want some? It's good stuff." I immediately recognized it as cocaine and declined his offer. He didn't take kindly to my refusal and began to get agitated. He started to shout at me in Spanish, demanding that I buy his drugs. I was scared and didn't know what to do. Suddenly, his partner appeared out of nowhere. He recognized me from the jewelry store and intervened, telling the first man to leave me alone. He apologized to me for his friend's behavior and offered to walk me back to my hotel. I was relieved and grateful for his help. As we walked, he told me that his friend had been dealing drugs for years and was always looking for new customers. He warned me to be careful and to avoid any interactions with him in the future. I thanked him for his help and promised to heed his advice. That night, I couldn't sleep. The encounter with the drug dealer had left me shaken, and I couldn't shake the feeling of fear that had taken hold of me. As I lay in bed, I reached for the necklace that I had purchased the day before. It was beautiful and had brought me so much joy, but now it felt tainted by the encounter with the drug dealer. The following day, I decided to return to the jewelry store and speak with Miguel. I wanted to know more about the cooperative of artists that had made the necklace and to find out if they had any other pieces for sale. When I arrived at the store, Miguel greeted me with a smile. I told him about my encounter with the drug dealer and how it had left me feeling afraid. He listened intently and then assured me that the neighborhood was safe and that most people were friendly. My opinion on the story. The story is a cautionary tale about the dangers of being a naive traveler in an unfamiliar country. The protagonist's curiosity and desire to experience everything Peru had to offer led her to stumble upon a small jewelry store and purchase a beautiful necklace. However, her lack of awareness of her surroundings and the people she encountered put her in a potentially dangerous situation when she was followed and approached by a drug dealer. The lesson to be learned from this story is the importance of being aware of one's surroundings and cautious when interacting with strangers, especially when traveling in a foreign country. It is also important to seek out advice and guidance from locals who can provide helpful tips and warnings to ensure a safe and enjoyable trip. As I sit down to recount the scariest travel experience I have ever had, my mind is flooded with memories of the incident. It was supposed to be a trip of a lifetime. A chance for my husband Dave and I to explore the depths of the Amazon rainforest. Little did we know that this trip would turn out to be a nightmare. We had been hiking for several hours, deep into the heart of the Amazon, where we came across a set of steel stairs. As we climbed the stairs, Dave slipped and tumbled down the entire flight, breaking his back in the process. I felt helpless as I watched him writhe in pain. We knew we had to get him out of the Amazon as soon as possible, but there was no way to do that except by boat or plane. We spent the next 10 hours trying to get Dave out of the rainforest. We first took a skiff boat to the nearest town, where we then boarded a floatplane to Iquitos. From there, we took a motor taxi to the hospital, where Dave underwent CT scans and MRIs. The doctors found that he had fractured 2 vertebrae, and there was nothing they could do except trying to control his pain. Dave spent the next 8 days in the hospital, heavily sedated on high doses of narcotic painkillers. The hospital in Iquitos was ill-equipped to handle his injuries, and we knew we had to get him home as soon as possible. We spent several days on the phone trying to organize an air ambulance back to Canada. It was a nightmare trying to gather up all the paperwork and organize insurance, but we finally secured a flight back home. Dave spent another 9 days in the hospital in Canada and another 4 months in recovery and physiotherapy. It was a long and painful journey, but we were grateful that he was alive and on the road to recovery. This experience was a harsh reminder that life can change in an instant. We often take our health and well-being for granted. This experience taught us to be grateful for everything we have. It also made us realize the importance of having proper travel insurance and being prepared for any emergency. We will never forget the terrifying experience we had in the Amazon, but we are grateful that we made it out alive. It has made us stronger and more appreciative of the little things in life. My opinion on the story. This story is a reminder of how quickly life can change and the importance of being prepared for unexpected events. The couple's trip of a lifetime turned into a nightmare, where the husband broke his back in the Amazon rainforest. The experience was scary and traumatic, and they had to navigate unfamiliar healthcare systems and insurance requirements to get him back home for proper medical care. The lesson to be learned is that accidents can happen anywhere and at any time, and it's crucial to have proper travel insurance and emergency plans in place. This experience also made them more grateful for the little things in life and reinforced the importance of valuing their health and well-being. I was a young and reckless 19-year-old with a burning desire for adventure. After saving up for months, I finally hit the road in search of my next big challenge. I chose to hike through the dense Costa Rican jungle on a 21-day trek that would take me from the Pacific Ocean to the Atlantic Ocean. It was going to be the adventure of a lifetime, or so I thought. 3 days into the trek, I woke up in the middle of the night with a throbbing pain in my leg. Something had found its way past my mosquito net and punctured my leg full of holes. I brushed it off, thinking it was just a few mosquito bites. But as the day progressed, my leg became more and more swollen and painful. By the next day, I was stumbling hopelessly through the jungle, rain lashing through the trees. My leg was angry and red, swollen beyond recognition, and it hurt to put pressure on it. I crawled up an endless muddy slope, half a foot of water soaking my clothes and pack as the path turned to a river. My map was sodden and useless, but somehow I made it to a ranger station. I stumbled through the front door like some kind of jungle demon and instantly passed out. When I came to, I was being evacuated to a hospital where I was informed that my leg would have to be amputated. Fear writhed through me at the thought of losing my leg and my dream of joining the Royal Marines. 2 weeks passed in a hazy blur until finally I graduated from my bed into a wheelchair and back to England. I spent a year recovering from my physical injuries and had a good old-fashioned mental breakdown upon learning that the Marines were no longer an option. I felt lost and unsure of what to do with my life. But then I remembered something my grandfather used to say. Sometimes the greatest challenges offer the greatest opportunities. With that in mind, I booked a one-way flight to India, where I began my wandering hobo travels. India was a shock to my system, and the culture shock was intense. But I found that I loved the challenge of navigating through unfamiliar territory and discovering new experiences. I traveled through India for months, meeting new people and learning about different cultures. I'd also learned a lot about myself and my own strengths and weaknesses. From India, I traveled to other countries in Asia and then on to South America, where I hiked through the Andes Mountains and explored the Amazon rainforest. My travels were often difficult and challenging, but I always felt alive and invigorated. As I traveled, I also began to develop a deeper understanding of the world and its many complexities. I saw firsthand the struggles that people faced in different parts of the world, and it gave me a new appreciation for my own life and the opportunities I had been given. Eventually, my travels led me back to England, where I began to pursue a career in international development. I found that my experiences traveling had given me a unique perspective and a passion for helping others. Looking back on that fateful day in the Costa Rican jungle, I realized that it was the beginning of a journey that changed my life in ways I could never have imagined. It forced me to reevaluate who I was and what I wanted to do with my life. And in the end, it led me to a path that was ultimately more rewarding than the one I had originally planned. My opinion on the story. This is an inspiring story of how a young adventurer's life took a drastic turn after a fateful trip to the Costa Rican jungle. The story shows the seriousness of overlooking the dangers that come with exploring unknown territories. However, it also emphasizes the importance of having a positive attitude and embracing unexpected challenges as opportunities for growth. The lesson to be learned from this story is that life can sometimes throw us unexpected obstacles that can derail our plans, but we should be resilient and adaptable enough to turn those challenges into opportunities for personal growth and development. It is also a testament to the power of travel and exploration in broadening our horizons and opening up new opportunities for ourselves. I never thought that a family vacation to Puerto Rico would turn into a nightmare that we would never forget. It was supposed to be a relaxing getaway with my husband, my parents, and our 2 young daughters. We had spent the day on the beautiful beach, playing in the sun and sand, when everything changed. As the sun began to set, we were packing up our belongings and getting ready to leave. That's when a man appeared out of nowhere, holding a knife to my mother's neck. I froze in fear as he demanded that we give him all of our valuables. My husband quickly complied, handing over our wallets and phones. I grabbed our daughters and tried to run. The attacker's accomplice pulled me back. I felt helpless and terrified as I watched my mother fight for her life. She was a fighter, biting the man hard enough to draw blood. But he was too strong, holding her in a chokehold and cutting off her oxygen. I tried to break free, but the accomplice held me back, laughing as he watched the scene unfold. Finally, I managed to break free and ran for help. I didn't know where to go, but I knew I had to do something. As I ran, I could hear my mother's screams and my daughter's crying. I was shaking with fear and felt like I was going to collapse at any moment. Thankfully, I found a group of people who called the police and helped us. The attackers had fled, and my mother was lying on the ground, barely conscious. The paramedics rushed her to the hospital, where she spent several days recovering from the attack. The incident had a profound impact on all of us. We were all traumatized, especially my mother, who had to endure the physical and emotional pain of the attack. My daughters, who were only 1 and 3 years old at the time, didn't fully understand what had happened, but they were scared and clingy for weeks afterward. We spent the rest of our vacation in a state of heightened awareness, never letting our guard down and always looking over our shoulders. It was a stark reminder of the dangers that can lurk in even the most beautiful and idyllic places. When we returned home, we had to face the aftermath of the attack. We had lost our valuables and had to cancel our credit cards. My mother had to undergo therapy to deal with the trauma of the attack. We were all changed by the experience, and it took a long time for us to regain a sense of safety and security. Despite the pain and fear we experienced, there was a silver lining. We were grateful to be alive and to have each other. The attack brought us closer together as a family, and we learned to appreciate each other and the precious moments we share. We also learned to be more aware of our surroundings and to take nothing for granted. My opinion on the story. This story is a harrowing reminder of the dangers that can lurk in even the most beautiful and idyllic places. The attack on this family during their vacation to Puerto Rico was a traumatic experience that left them all changed. The lesson to be learned is to always be aware of your surroundings and to never let your guard down, no matter where you are. The family's experience also highlights the importance of being grateful for the people you have in your life and the precious moments you share. It's heartwarming to see that despite the pain and fear they experienced, the attack brought them closer together as a family.